Hello and welcome to Das Nostalgia. I'm Anatoly, and today I'm gonna start with a story. Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, early 90s. It was a day I wasn't going to school and instead ended up with my mother at her job, which I enjoyed visiting as she worked in an office with new computers, and those computers had games on them. Upon my arrival, a security guard who was playing something greeted me with, "Kid, I have to go to the bathroom. Take over for a bit." I sat in front of a computer and this was what I saw. My life was changed forever. Wolfenstein 3D was developed by id Software and published by Apogee on May 5th, 1992. It is known as their original first-person shooter game. Despite the fact that it was not the first game where one could shoot enemies in first person, and not even the first game of that type from id Software, it was definitely the first game like that that had a massive success and therefore defined the genre and its basic elements. You play as BJ Blazkowicz, an American spy who gets captured and imprisoned in a Nazi fortress called Wolfenstein. But one day BJ manages to kill a guard and get a hold of his gun. From this point on, you'll be doing one thing and one thing only:
killing Nazis.
The game itself is really easy to pick up. Each level is a floor of a maze-like fortress where you get to shoot the enemies, collect some treasure, unlock a few doors with some keys, and make your way to the elevator that will take you to the next floor. The enemies are mostly just assorted soldiers, but there are a few interesting exceptions, such as silent but lethal mutants, floating Hitler dummies with flamethrowers, and unusually for games, German shepherds. You only have 4 weapons to use against the enemies, but luckily a pistol, a machine gun, and a chain gun all happen to use the same type of ammunition. Once you run out of bullets, you fall back on using a knife, which isn't totally useless as most enemies can be stunned out of their attack cycle. So you can successfully take out almost any enemy with a knife, if there happens to be no other enemies around. Every 9th level, you'll encounter a boss who'll be this giant thing, occasionally armed with a projectile weapon. In 1992, this felt like some kind of black magic, especially if you had a fast machine that allowed the game to run at 70 frames a second. Despite its cartoony style, the game felt real. id Software conceived the game as a spiritual successor to the Apple II game Castle Wolfenstein. I'm showing the PC version here, which was one of the first stealth games. Originally, the game was supposed to include stealth elements such as hiding bodies, searching for items in the environment, and wearing a Nazi uniform, as seen on this early screenshot of the elements for the player's interface. Also, just like in id's earlier FPS efforts, a 16-color EGA version was planned. Eventually, all of this was ditched in favor of a fast-paced shooting game in 256 colors, and it proved to be the right decision. The game was released as shareware by Apogee in a familiar for the time manner. First episode, which consisted of 9 regular levels and 1 secret one, was absolutely free to play and share. 2 more episodes could be purchased via a phone call or a mail order for $35, and if 30 levels wasn't enough, you could also bring the total number of levels to 60 by purchasing the so-called Nocturnal Missions, an additional set of 3 episodes for $20 more. Or you could just order the whole thing from the beginning for $50. This proved to be very successful, but id wasn't done yet. After just 4 months, Spear of Destiny, a sequel to Wolfenstein 3D published by FormGen, hit the shelves of actual retail stores. In reality, it was just 21 new levels and a few new bosses, but the game itself wasn't changed in any other way. After that, the original game itself finally reached retail stores in 1993. Now, don't get me wrong, I played a ton of Wolfenstein 3D back in the day, and it's a true gaming classic that deserves all of its accolades, but it sort of didn't age too well. The technology was limited to very simple levels with same floor heights and 90-degree walls. After a while you start getting lost in the levels, which get progressively more maze-like. And while the original 3 episodes at least resemble an abstract fortress of some kind, the later 3 become too confusing. Not a completely surprising fact, as they were made after a request by Scott Miller, the founder of Apogee, after he saw how quickly a map for the game can be cranked out. Spear of Destiny's map design is, in my opinion, better than Nocturnal Missions, but suffers from too few pickups and excessive enemy placement. Speaking of enemies, they too have a few issues. A lot of them are tied to how the game's damage system works. It's based on many factors such as distance and accuracy, but also random chance. That means that in the worst case scenario, from afar your shot can land but do 0 damage. Shooting someone in the back deals more damage, which is true of you as well, so even a basic guard enemy is capable of taking off more than half of your full health if he shoots you from behind, which isn't uncommon as enemies are often placed in corners of rooms. Enemies can also shoot through each other, meaning that if you enter a room full of them, you can lose all your 100 points of health in seconds. Even when you've been playing this game for nearly 25 years, it's still really hard because of that. Also, bumping into any object is for some reason accompanied by an annoying buzzing noise, and you will be bumping into walls a lot, especially when trying to find secret push walls that give access to hidden bonuses. I personally can only take this game in small doses, but maybe that's also because it makes me feel kind of queasy after a while, I think due to its speed and how the mouse movement is handled. 2 years after the original game, FormGen decided to release 2 mission packs for Spear of Destiny. Mission 2, Return to Danger, and Mission 3, Ultimate Challenge. These weren't made by id Software and feature all new graphics, which give the game an interesting new look. The new levels, however, are really poorly designed, with overly complicated layouts and enemies around every corner. Still, despite all my complaining, Wolfenstein 3D is a classic for a reason. It has plenty of memorable moments, like hearing Bobby Prince's wonderful ad-lib music, seeing BJ's face on the status bar get progressively worse, figuring out you could slurp up blood and eat dog food if your health got too low, encountering Mecha Hitler for the first time, watching grotesque replays of bosses' death sequences, or escaping from the fortress. All of these classic gaming moments stay with you forever. So yes, despite the fact that the game is a bit antiquated at this point, it can still be pretty great. It's currently available on a variety of platforms and digital distribution services, and I'd encourage you to give it a whirl. That's it for today, and thank you for watching. And once again, huge thanks go out to these awesome DOS enthusiasts who made this episode possible. If you like this video, check out my other ones, subscribe to the channel, and maybe consider supporting DOS Nostalgia on Patreon to see more videos like this one in the future. Thank you again.
Shoot double! Shoot double! Shoot double! Shoot double! Shoot double!